My Shaco neighbor James Earl usually keeps up with most of the goings on out here at Shaco. And he was telling me the other day about something he had heard from a neighbor out here, an old boy out here at Shaco that, according to James Earl, just went through a really messy divorce. Seems that his wife, according to James Earl, ran off with another man and evidently could afford a better lawyer than he could, because she wound up with title to the house. On the first day after the settlement, the old boy sadly packed up his belongings and put them in boxes and crates and suitcases. On the second day, he had the movers come. She had already left and was planning to come back. But he had the movers come and collect his things. On the third day, he sat down for the last time at their beautiful dining room table. He put on some soft music, feasted on a pound of shrimp, a jar of caviar, a bottle of champagne, and 3 cans of sardines, which he loved. And when he finished eating, he went into every room and put a few of the half-eaten shrimp, a little caviar, and a couple of the sardines into the hollow center of the curtain rods. Then he cleaned up the kitchen and left. Well, on the 4th day, the wife came back to the house with her boyfriend. And at first everything was okay, and then slowly the house began to smell. Well, they tried everything, cleaning, mopping, and airing out the whole place. Vents were checked for dead mice, and carpets were steam cleaned, and air fresheners were hung everywhere. Exterminators were brought in to set off gas canisters, during which time the two had to leave for a few days. They even paid to replace the expensive carpeting, but nothing worked. People stopped coming over, and repairmen refused to work in the house. The maid quit, and finally they just couldn't take the smell anymore, and they decided they had to move. But a month later, even though they'd cut the price in half, they couldn't find a buyer for that stinky house. Word got out, and eventually even the realtors refused to return their calls. And finally, when they were unable to wait any longer, they had to borrow a huge amount of money to buy a new place. And then our old boy called the woman and asked her how things were going. She told him about their troubles with the house, and he listened politely and said that he missed the old house and he might be willing to buy it. Well, now, she knew he couldn't have any idea about how bad that smell really was. And she agreed on a price that was only about 1/10 of what the house had been worth, but only if he would sign the papers that very day. He agreed, and within about 2 hours later, her lawyer delivered to him the completed paperwork. And a week later, the woman and her boyfriend stood smiling as they watched the moving company pack everything to take to their new house. And to spite the old boy she had left, she took everything, including the curtain rods. James Earl grinned when he told me this and said, "I just love a happy ending. Don't you?" Yes, I do. I'm Jim Ritchie. I'll see you again next time.